everybody. Hope you're doing good. Today, my guest is a Dobro player here in Kansas City, Fred Uzzell.
Pleasure to see you, Rob.
How you doing, man?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Good. Yeah. I was trying to think where I met you. I think Scott probably had you come to one of our gigs.
You were playing at a pizza
Ah,
shop.
the cans one. Yeah.
And Scott said, "We'll drop in sometime and bring a dobro
Mm-hmm.
because it's easier to carry than steel guitar."
All right.
And
Sure.
that's where we met.
Yeah. We ran a little jam.
We
A
did.
little open mic, something or other. I don't know what you want to call it, but we had some people come up, and that was fun.
But it was loose and it was fun, and
Mhm.
we played different stuff.
You're right. Scott, the guy that I play with, Scott Lane, he's on the show if you guys want to check out his interview, but he really likes that kind of like campfire setup thing. Where we're all kind of sitting around and just jamming, and like he really that's why he wanted that setup like that. You just kind of come in and, sit over there if you need and just kind of work your way in and figure it out.
Find a hole and jump in.
Find a hole and jump in. That's exactly right. The one other thing I wanted to mention before we started is you gave me a really interesting opportunity a couple years ago where we went and judged it was like a flat picking, what was that called?
It was the Kansas Old Time Pickers and Singers Association.
Yeah.
It was their annual convention, and they had a contest, fiddle players, guitar players, and we went down to judge. There were three of us.
Yeah. What was the other guy?
Brett Hodges.
Brett Hodges, yeah, I've seen him play before. He's a cool guy.
And they made us play
Yeah.
beforehand to to prove that we were worthy of deciding how they played. So it was an interesting.
Yeah, it was kind of funny. We were all up on little all up on little riser things, and we're sitting up there like big shots, like we know what we're talking about.
Taking
But
notes.
yeah, right. And but that was a really fun. Opportunity because if you guys have ever been to those contests, there was like ages, right? So they had like the little kids, like high school age, and then they had like the 18 to 40, and then they had the seniors, and so they judged fiddle. We judged like the fiddle contest. They had like the flat pickers. They had singing,
I don't think they did banjo.
Yeah.
No, they were limited to guitar, fiddle, and vocal.
Right, but we also did the thing that I remember about that is they had a yodeling contest, and we're like supposed to judge a yodeling contest, right?
How do you, in good conscience, judge a yodeling contest?
I don't know.
Can't yodel, can you?
No, I mean we're just the guys for the job, But yeah, that was really funny, and that was easy. Like that one was kind of easy because there's one guy that I don't know anything about it, but that guy was like way better than the other two that were up there, So that was kind of easy to see who won, anyways. But yeah, I'm like yodeling. What do I do with that? I don't know anything about that. But that was it. But I wanted to thank you, for asking me to come judge. That was fun.
I really enjoyed our time together doing it, and each one of us brought a different perspective. I think you had the classical background more so than Brett or I, but combined, I thought we made a pretty good team.
I did. Yeah, Brett's kind of different from the both of us too. Yeah. So that's
Brett was the rocker originally.
Right.
But
yeah, that's cool. But anyway, that was a really fun little. And then you've come and sat in with our band, a number of times on random, especially mostly just me and Scott. When me and Scott play, we need a third. What helps somebody to kind of fill up the sound with him, because when we don't have the bass and bass and drums or whatever, so we always appreciate you coming.
And I love doing things like that because you get to be a little bit creative. You're looking for holes where you can jump in, hit a hot lick, back out. Always make sure the singer sounds good. That's the culture I was trained to play in.
Sure. Yeah. So tell people what the heck that thing is.
This is a dobro. Some people call it a resonator guitar. You don't play it, even though they make a resonator that you play like you do a customary guitar. This is a slide resonator, so it's played with a bar like a steel guitar is. And inside, behind the hubcap, if you will, is a spun aluminum cone. And so the sound goes down into the sound chamber, and that cone sends it back out, amplifies it, and sends it back out. So you get a lot of different sounds with a dobro than you do with a traditional guitar. I love the Dobro because it has a lot of personalities.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it can be sweet. It can be, you can play it as a rock instrument if you want to, bluegrassy, country.
Mm-hmm.
I can't think of anything I can't play on this, any style, any genre,
Right.
you know. So it's very flexible instrument.
Yeah, definitely. And I think people have a hard time that know a little bit about it, distinguishing that from steel. You know, a lot of times. I mean, steel can, again, and it sits on your lap, right? You have the lap.
That's what they say.
kind of
How does
thing.
this differ from a lap steel? Because they both sit on your lap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, too, I play this standing up a lot,
Mm-hmm.
which you can't do with a lap steel.
The straps, obviously. Yeah.
This particular Dobro doesn't have a pickup in it, whereas all lap steels have pickups. So when I'm playing this, usually in a recording studio, this particular guitar, it's going to be heavily mic'd.
Sure.
So those are some of the basic differences.
Yeah,
It just has a different sound. The cone gives it a different
Mm-hmm.
sound than a lap steel or a pedal steel or anything else.
Sure, yeah, and it always cracks me up with steel guitar and dobro, the sliding going on is one of your probably biggest tricks you can do is the slide. You know, obviously, I love one of the big guys that I really like listening to is Robert Randolph. He's a you know, blues, you know, funky, you know, he
He runs around a steel guitar, plays all the
right, yeah, and but some of these, some of the guys, and I remember, I can't think of his name, but the guy that played with Bob Wills, he was on steel again, but I'd never seen anybody play a steel like that. I mean, he was really notey, and was there anybody in particular that you kind of decided to play?
One of the
with?
steel players that played with Bob Wills that had a big impression on me was Herb Remington.
Mm-hmm.
Herb wrote Remington Ride, which is a steel guitar classic, and then played with Bob Wills for years and years, and then started making steel guitars. I have 2 of his guitars.
Oh, cool.
He passed away last year, and I'm thrilled that I've got 2 instruments that he built for me the way I wanted them built.
Oh, wow.
So but he was very notey. You know, instead of an earlier steel player, Joaquin Murphy, out of the 20s, 30s, was mostly known for chords.
Right.
Flat. He'd just strum a chord, get a big sound, a big band sound. Herb was individual notes, quick, fast. I liked Herb's style a lot.
Oh yeah, that's cool. I know that like when I see guitar players doing like bossa stuff and like a lot more like a banjo player would pick out different strings and kind of do more chordy kind of stuff. He did very melodic, I've heard some steel players down, do now, you know, it's really like melodic and forward moving. But I know a lot of steel players like Colm that plays with us, Colm Komicki, he plays kind of more that chordy style where, you know, is that hard to do on that? Like a really notey?
No, it's not hard to.
Yeah.
It's not hard to do. One of the things you do when you're practicing dobro, you practice rolls just like you would on a banjo.
Right.
So I'm doing forward rolls, I'm doing backwards rolls. I also play a lot of Hawaiian music on this. One of the bands I play in is called Hula Girl, and we have 9 dancers who dance,
Wow.
authentic Hawaiian dancers, and 2 men singers who sing in Hawaiian.
Oh,
And
cool.
I'll alternate between a dobro and a steel when I play with them. And I can strum it and make it sound like it's, you know, just a big fat sound, slide, and conjures up visions of waves and oceans, or you can do single notes. So
Yeah, that's cool.
that's one of the nice traits of both the dobro and the steels. You can be a picker, or you can be a quarter, or you can be just about whatever you want to be.
Sure. Yeah. So for probably most of the people that are gonna watch won't necessarily know you. How did you start playing, or what? Like, how did you get? I mean, on a dobro. I mean,
I started on steel guitar.
Was that when you were real young?
I was 6 years old.
Yeah,
And our next door neighbor was taking lessons, and back in those days, the guitar teachers came to your house, and so she had a little 6-string lap steel, and after a period of time, she was ready to upgrade to a bigger guitar, And my dad was a big fan of country music and steel. He couldn't play, but he loved the instrument and he loved the music. And so he bought that guitar, and then he approached the fellow who was giving her lessons. I think it was $5 a week back then for a 1 hour lesson. He said, "Look, you're already in the neighborhood. You just come next door and give my son a lesson for $3. No travel time involved." So that's how I started.
Yeah, wow.
And I took lessons for 4 or 5 years and learned how to read, which was hard, but probably the best thing I ever did. And then about that time, my dad said, "I'm not buying any. You're not taking any more lessons. I'm going to buy records, and you're going to learn how to play by ear, and then chart. Because you can read, you should be able to chart what you hear." And that's probably the second greatest thing I ever learned how to do is play by ear.
So were you writing stuff out then?
Yeah. He'd come home with a stack of Eddie Arnold records and say, "Learn those songs and then write the charts." And so I learned how to do that. A lot of trial and error, but it's a good thing to know. I mean, you write charts. You're going to play a new song this week, you'll chart it out. So
that's a great exercise to do, to really know exactly what you're playing and not, just kind of wing it and
and hope
I hit it,
Yeah, a lot of it is genetic, I think. You've got to have the ear to know that, that's a diminished sound I'm hearing, not an augmented, not a seventh.
Yep.
So I'm blessed with a good ear and a good memory.
Yeah. Memory helps a lot.
Memory helps a whole lot.
Yeah. And so so you started doing lessons, and then did you kind of immediately get playing with a band, or were you just like screwing around until that a little bit?
When I was in my later years in grade school, my dad had a friend whose son played guitar, and another friend whose son played drums. So the father said, "Well, we're going to get our kids together, and they're going to form this trio, and we'll haul them around town, and they'll play at various school events." And so that was my first experience playing in a band.
Cool.
Yeah,
So that young.
I think it was called the Hilltop Trio when we were like 7 or 8 years old, but it exposed us to playing publicly. And our fathers were all pretty rigid. When we screwed up, we all heard about it. There was sort of a grade card after the performance. So. And they were all sticklers about practice. So to this day, I still practice. Practice every day.
Yeah, that's great.
So.
But that's interesting. You had parents that were like not just saying they cared enough to tell you when you're doing something, but they also didn't just sit back and say, "Oh, Fred, you did so good. You don't need to get any better. You're perfect."
No, there was none of that.
Yeah.
And I would like to practice during the day when my dad was at work. And he would come home and he'd say, "Did you practice today?" "Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'm here what you practiced." And he couldn't read a note, but he had an incredible ear. And he'd say, "No, that's not the way that song goes." And I might say, "That's how it's charted." He'd say, "I don't care. Listen to it on the radio.
Yeah.
That's not what you hear. Play what you hear."
And was he right a lot of the time?
He was right a whole lot of the time.
That's
in his mind, he was right all the time. So
I hate those guys. No, I'm just kidding.
I've he's long gone, but I thank him mentally for all the times he made me practice when I didn't want to.
Right.
Because I've had so much fun, got so much enjoyment out of playing, and the people, you meet people, you get in the moment, and you play a tune and say, "Damn, that was great." I may never do it that good again, but so I'm glad I practiced.
Yeah. I literally every show I get somebody come up. "Oh, I love the violin, man. I played in 4th grade and I always know it's coming in, then I quit." It's like, and so it's interesting that I hear a lot of adults say like things like, "I wish my parents would have made me keep playing," and I'm like, "Yeah, but you were asshole," or you were telling me, "I hate this, I want to quit," and then 20 years later you're mad that you did, and then like, what do you want me to do as a parent? So it's really nice that your parents were kind of supportive of that. And
when I got in high school, about the time Bill Haley and the Comets were playing rock and roll, and they had a steel guitar player, and so I played all through high school, made a lot of made some good money. Bought a couple of cars with the money I made playing in high school. One thing just led to another. So.
That's cool. I mean, when you were first starting, I think you mentioned reading. Was there anything else that was like really easy for you? Like when you first started, was there something that you really like picked up quick on?
I picked up the left hand real quick, which is the slide.
Yeah.
Dobro and steel guitar, you don't have pedals like a pedal steel, but you can bend the bar, not bend the bar, but you do slants, I guess is a better word. So I was pretty good at doing slants, forward and backwards.
Slants, so that means like at an angle on the neck, right?
So if you're in the, I'll give you a rough example. If you're in the key of C, which is 5th fret on a dobro, your 4 chord is the F, which is up on the 10th fret. Okay, I can get an F chord by slanting the bar on the 5th fret between the 5th and 7th. If you go a 45-degree angle and hit the 1st and 2nd strings, you've got an F chord.
Yeah.
Or you've got 2 notes at the end.
Right.
So that was they called it, just hand management. Don't jump all over the neck to get what you can get into. That came pretty easy to me. The right hand picking the rolls, single notes, that just came over time. Just worked at it a lot.
Yeah, we talk about that. They talk about that a lot on guitar, is figuring out on your neck like the 4 different ways to play your C chord. Right. So when you have C, F, G, da 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 da, you can and it's all right here. Kind of what you're saying instead of jumping.
Right.
Yeah. Because that's really nice, right? I mean, it's really convenient when you can.
Well, I've never been a super fast picker, but the guys that are fast, really fast pickers, if you watch them, their hand probably never moves more than 2 frets either way. And because you couldn't possibly jump from C to F that fast, as fast as they're going. So a lot of it is just bar control.
Yeah, and you said the reading was kind of something that was just tricky at first, just like for everybody, I guess.
Well, the first time I'd ever seen a piece of sheet music with lines on it and bars and staff, and then they started talking about bass clef. Oh, what the hell's a bass clef? I'm not playing a bass. What does it mean? So that was difficult, but it's one thing I'm glad I learned. So I was fortunate to have 2 really good teachers, and I never heard either one of them play a steel guitar. Ironically, they both showed up carrying. You remember back in the 40s, the big bands, they always had the guitar players that played the big blonde Gibson guitars.
Right.
They both played those.
Yeah, wow.
And they both taught me to play a lot of different music. They weren't country teachers or classical teachers, but you learned to play big band, you learned to play some country. So they made you think of music a lot of different ways, which I liked.
Sure. So, like, I know that whenever you're playing with us, we're doing kind of country, bluegrassy, folky, kind of stuff. It's some rock, but is that the kind of stuff that you've mostly done? Is kind of that Americana, folky, country stuff? Is
that plus, the Hawaiian aspect that I do. But
yeah, I bet that the steel and that sounds pretty cool in that band.
It does.
Yeah.
So I like music. I can play Yesterday on the Dobro. A lot of Beatles songs.
Yeah, that's cool.
So you don't have to have an electric guitar or a steel guitar, or if you want to play it, you can do it.
Right.
So
when we have, like I said, Colin Kamicki's in our band playing steel, and whenever it's weird because we'll play stuff like Blackwater Doobie Brothers, and we'll hear some steel guitar in it, and we're all like, whoa, like it's just because, you never get to hear that, or something like Long Train Running, and it sounds really crazy to have that in this, like in a good way. But when you have somebody like yourself playing something like Blue Eyes Crying in the Rain, your dobro and steel, just there's nothing that sounds like it. You know, I mean, you know what I mean, like, and I'm meaning the instrument as well. Just you know, just steel guitar has something. There's something about the sound that is just awesome, right? I mean, it's just so country and so, just yeah.
Colm, you mentioned him a couple of
Yeah.
times. He and I used to both belong to the Heartland Steel Guitar Association, and we'd meet once a month on a Sunday, and there'd be 10 or 12 steel guitar players sitting around in a circle. And Colm invariably would be sitting across from me, and so everybody's always trying to play a lick that nobody else in the circle has played, and it gets really interesting and challenging. But I see Colm hit a lick and make a mental note. Okay, I don't want to do that one.
Yeah,
Gotta do something different.
Yeah. You and then you mentioned a minute ago about staying out of the way of the singer. That's something I know that I don't know if I do it all the time, but I know I'm trying to think that way of trying to as a kind of basically solo instrument, the person who's not the rhythm, bass, or drums. When you and I play together, we have a very similar role, I think, in the band of trying to fill in those
Fill holes.
And like, is that or you tell me, like, what are you thinking about when you're playing? Is that something you're thinking about the when question?
Yeah, the when is a lot. I was brought up in the school of thought that the steel guitar player or dobro player's role is to make the singer sound good. The singer is the front person in the band. So if the singer is singing high, I'm going to play low. She's low, I'm going to go high. It's the first thing I think about.
Range.
And then range. And then I think, because if I'm playing the same level she's singing, I'm stepping on her. You know, and I don't want to be. You know, there are certain points of every song where the singer is emphasizing a key theme of the song or whatever. You don't want to be stepping on that singer when she's doing that. But there are other times when it's almost like call and answer.
Sure.
She'll sing something and there's a glaring hole.
Yeah.
You and I fill those holes.
Yeah.
And I like it when we play together because we just kind of look at each other. And I got a good idea where you're going to go and you know where I'm going to go. And we don't usually step on each other, which is nice.
And there's you know, that's kind of I had one moment, Paul Gomez maybe was his name, he's a jazz guy in town, a saxophone player, and we were at a jam, and I was so used to, you know, when you get those, you know, 7 guys up on stage and there's the hole and you have 6 people, you know, going for it, you know, so you have 6 people playing but me and him were standing right next to each other, and I could just feel him because he's a very good jazz saxophone player, and I was out of the corner of my eye and he was out of the corner of his eye, and we just, I mean, I just would step up and he'd back off and he'd start and I'd back off, and it was just wonderful, you know. I mean, we were just really watching each other.
You're in the moment.
We were in the moment, but we were both paying attention to not step on. It wasn't about even the singer; it was step on each other too, and that takes a certain amount of awareness as a player, you know.
Well, you know, after a while, it becomes second nature because that's what you do. And you know that you're going to get your ride. You know, you're going to have your moment to shine. But if the singer sounds good, everybody's going to sound good, generally speaking.
Right.
So there's a singer in town, a young lady named Havila Bruders. I don't know if you've ever heard Havila. Got an incredible voice, and she sings a lot of jazz spots around town. Her guitar player also plays guitar for Marilyn May, and has for years and years and years. So one night I'm at the Dubliner at 14th and Main, and there's kind of an open mic thing going on, and I ended up on the stage with her guitar player and another guitar player named Dan Bliss. I don't know if you know Dan.
Oh yeah.
Okay. So there's the 3 of us, and we're playing
Dan's good.
some incredible jazz piece, and everybody's looking off everybody else, but nobody stepped.
What is special about
Any
country music that maybe a lot of
It
people
is-
don't
it was
recognize? Maybe some of
It was a
the
great night.
jazz type players.
Yeah, Dan's
some
really
people
good.
look
Yeah,
down
I've heard him
on
play with
country
Rod
music.
Lehman before. He's very good.
We were doing Ain't Misbehaved.
Oh, yeah.
Country
Oh,
music
yeah.
song tells a story
Yeah,
generally.
double time.
Yeah.
Generally, the common folks, and maybe some of the not so common folks, can relate to those stories. You know, it's the hard working man, you know, that goes out and has a couple beers after work or whatever. It's not as complex as a Mozart piece. It may only have 3 or 4 chords with a minor or diminished thrown in for effect, but it's how you play it more than what it is. You know, do you put the slide in? Do you have a crescendo at this point? You know, where do you go soft? Where do you go loud? So it's and I think that theme runs through any music. I go see a classic orchestra. They're not all loud all the time. You know, maybe the oboe is quiet and the brass is loud. The same theories that apply to a classical orchestra can be applied to how you play a country song.
Sure. Yeah, and
or a bluegrass song.
Sure. Yeah, and maybe that to me is what maybe some of the beginners in country just don't have yet. You know, it's kind of the volume wise. You know, it's kind of medium loud. The entire song, and they don't bring it. You know, they don't use the dynamics.
No peaks and valleys.
No peaks and valleys.
Dynamics is a good word for it.
Right. Yeah. And I think the simplicity is what people want. You know, I mean, the hour-long symphony. You know, I mean, that's not anywhere in the universe simple. You know, and that's like, and some people hate that.
Really?
Well, I mean, they want it simple. They can't. They didn't. This other guy was like, I didn't come to this bar for homework tonight.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? With a band that wants to play really complicated music, bebop is a great example. You know, I didn't come for
entertain me.
Yeah.
That's what I want. When I go to a movie, I don't want to have to think about
why
did all this happen. I just want to be entertained. Let it spill out. Country does that. It just rolls out and entertains you. You can dance to it. You can listen to it. You can generally talk over it if you're with your friends. So.
Sure. Oh, turd. Yeah. So, what were some other like maybe players that were influences on you early on? So was this was like, so that would have been like 70s. When you like first started or whatever, or like
60s.
60s. Okay, so like, because I've heard a lot of people talk about like your high school, middle school years have a huge influence on your musical taste.
You know, when you're first starting, you don't even know who's out there.
Right.
You know, so you're just struggling to learn the note structure and the chord structure. Texas swing had a big influence on me. Of course, Bob Wills, Tommy Duncan, Herb Remington was playing steel, and so that influenced me early on. In high school, it was rock and roll, anything rock and roll that you could play on a steel guitar. I didn't pick up a Dobro until 20 years ago. My wife bought me this Dobro, and she said,
"Oh, cool!
Learn to play something different." And
I'm tired of what you're playing. Play something else.
And I kind of fell in love with the Dobro.
Yeah.
And at that point in time, it was Jerry Douglas, it was Rob Ikes. I like old Tut Taylor. Tut played a Dobro with a guitar pick. You know, I wear a pick like a banjo player wears. He played it with a guitar pick, and did some incredible things. So then I started listening to Alison Krauss, Union Station, Jerry Douglas. You know, there's not that many. There's not that really many famous steel guitar players out there today. In fact, if you go to Nashville, you're probably not gonna see a steel guitar player on the stage.
Right.
You might see a Dobro player occasionally, but country today has gone more of the bebop or the semi-rap progression.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
So
you. I'm trying to think. Has there been any like steel or dobro frontman in any really big band? I'm thinking there's
frontman, no.
Yeah.
No.
Because there's been fiddle player like Bob Wills and oh no, what was the guy's name? Charlie Daniels, but
Charlie Daniels.
There's another guy, I can't think of his name right now, but there's been a handful of fiddle players that have been.
I can't think of the fiddle player's name either. One of the greats, and years ago I had some extra money and I went into a music store and I said, I want to buy a fiddle. And they said, well, how good do you want to be? And I said, I want to be as good as this fellow that I can't remember. And the guy who owned the store said, you're not going to live that long. To spend your money somewhere else. And I think he was probably right.
Yeah. Fiddle's rough. It's a rough instrument. It's hard. Have you found that you mentioned a little bit about what country is today? Have you found what do you think's been the differences between kind of country and the Hank Williams era? They go up through the kind of Alan Jackson, Garth Brooks kind of era, and then you have, now what we have today. What are you seeing different?
I think the people, the generation that grew up on the old Hank Williams, Alan Jackson, they're dying off, really. Mm-hmm. And those people used to fill the Opry halls, and the younger generation doesn't go to an Opry on Saturday night to pay to listen to a show for 3 hours. They need something that's hard driving. Mm-hmm. And so country had a radical change, and it happened really quick. I think it happened really quick. So it's kind of like, okay, we're over here today, we're playing Hank and other stuff, and then tomorrow we're playing rap. And a lot of us didn't make that change. I never made that change. Right. So that's some of the change, something I noticed. But I play at an opera house down in Ottawa twice a month, and the last show I played there, we had 530 people in the audience.
So, that's wonderful.
We're playing classic country, and they're loving it.
Yeah. It's kind of I think of it as really pop oriented. The new today. Country. Yeah. I mean, it's got a lot of pop mentality, but the attitude is sort of hip hop, right? It's like that's weird. That's interesting. You mentioned the hip hop angle.
So it's changed.
Good.
I like when I play with you and Rob. It's one thing I like. I would say we're more old country than new, certainly, but incorporate a lot of different genres in the old country sound.
Sure. Yeah, Scott adds a ton of classic rock stuff, first of all, so he's got definitely a rock feel to him, but he's got a huge country feel, and I don't really solo like a bluegrasser at all. I'm not a bluegrass player, so I have that whole weird thing going,
Well, last time we played together, we were doing Eagles.
Yeah.
Peaceful, Easy Feeling, I think, is one song.
Yeah.
That sticks in mind. Certainly not classified as a country song.
Right.
Country in the pure definition of country. Great song nonetheless. And I felt like I put a country spin on it behind it, and you probably did too. So.
Yeah, well, that's been blowing my mind since I started with Scott. Boy, Lion Eyes, Taking It Easy, Take It to the Limit, Peaceful Easy Feeling, like that Tequila Sunrise, those songs sound pretty darn country to me now that I kind of go back. We thought of them as like pop classic rock at the time, but now that, boy, that beat on, that's straight up two-step, right? That's kind of
and you listen to Peaceful or Tequila Sunrise, there's great steel guitar in that song. And it comes and it goes, but when it comes, it's clear, concise. It's great.
Pick that spot, right? Hit that perfect little spot and put it in there. And
you remember the song "Looking Out My Back Door"? Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yep.
That's the Dobro playing the open.
Oh yeah.
Da da da, looking out my. That's the Dobro playing that.
Oh yeah.
In the key of B of all things.
B. Gross. Key of B is gross. But that always cracks me up. Like Darius Rucker, right, from Hootie. Like I really liked Hootie and the Blowfish. They had a really that big album they did in the 90s, but he made a big, return here about 5-6 years ago. With Wagon Wheel. And I thought it was really funny that, speaking of, again, of the new country, is that I always use him as an example because he's got a fantastic voice and he's got a good stage presence or whatever, but I'm sorry, but that's Hootie with a steel guitar. Yeah. That's what it seems like to me. They add a little and then Oh, we're country now, you know. I don't know. That always cracks me up, you know, with the
Actually,
new.
I like to play wagon wheel on the Dobro because I think it gives it a.
Mm-hmm.
Even,
Yeah, I like Wagon Wheel.
yeah, I do too.
I don't
A
hate
lot
that
of people
song.
don't,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I do. A lot.
Yeah. What do you think about that? Some of the songs that, you know, the Brown Eyed Girls and Wagon Wheel and Margaritaville. Like,
Love
hey, you like them, huh?
Like
Yeah.
I also like songs like "The Wave" and "The Girl from Ipanema."
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah.
Not too many people play
Mm-hmm.
"The Wave."
Yeah.
But bossa nova, you know, I like that style,
Mm-hmm.
and it lays nice on a dobro and it lays nice on a steel guitar.
Mm-hmm. I like Wave a lot. That's one of my favorite Latin jazz tunes to play. But yeah.
Somebody asked me who wrote that's a great song. Who wrote that? And I said Juan Carlos Jobim.
Mm-hmm.
I said Joe who? And I said, I'd never heard of the gentleman.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. So you don't mind, because that's another thing that we've talked about on the show a lot too, is some guys that just absolutely refuse to play covers, and they don't want to be what they call like the performing monkey. You know, I get up there and I play all the audience wants to hear, you know, play the funky music white boy again, you know, like, you know, and what do you think about that attitude of
I like to
musician?
play what the audience wants to hear.
Mm-hmm.
We wherever I play, we actively encourage people to come up and tell us what you want to hear.
Yeah.
And if we can do it, we'll do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it makes me feel good as a musician if I can make a customer happy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I never wanted to be a songwriter. I don't write songs.
Mm-hmm.
I play other people's songs, and I'm all right with that.
Yeah. Because I know a lot of jazz guys have a mentality of always, you know, wanting to change the world. You know, and they're trying to, you know, find new sounds and new, you know, and be really artsy. That's the word I would call it, as opposed to. And maybe in my mind I shouldn't be separating entertainer artist, you know, but I think some people look at it like that. You got the Louis Armstrongs on one side who are, you know, crowd, right? And then you've got the other guys that are, you know, supposedly there for the music, you know, I mean, do you think that's a dumb attitude, or what do you think about that?
Yeah, I don't know what to think about.
Yeah, it's hard, but it sounds like you enjoy playing what the audience, making the audience happy, I guess.
I really do, and I'll give you an example. I play in a band. One of the bands I play in, we're all good musicians in that band, and we play primarily country. But we had a guy from the audience come up the other day and said, "Can you play St. Louis blues?" Well, yeah, I can play St. Louis blues.
Mm-hmm.
It's a Louis Armstrong song, great song.
Mm-hmm.
And the musicians I'm playing with are talented enough that if I tell them that, okay, it's a 1-4-5 and we're going to do a 6 minor kick, they all know and they'll all fall in. And the place just went crazy because they liked hearing St. Louis blues. Is it something I do every day? No. But a good buddy of mine, Jim Winters, you know Jim, great country singer, but he'll sing "Fly Me to the Moon" if somebody wants to hear Sinatra. And I have no problem playing "Fly Me to the Moon."
Sure, yeah.
So.
Yeah, that's really neat to be like versatile like that, and I always find it easier if somebody comes and requests an artist. You know, because nobody knows literally every song. You know, so I want to hear. They come up to Scott James Taylor. He's like, okay, you know, he kind of thinks in his head. You know, my 3 James Taylor tunes that I know. You know, my 3 John Denver tunes. My 3. You know,
the opera that I play for it's called the Grand O Opera, and we do 40 songs on every show.
Yeah.
And a week and a half before every show, I'll get a list of those songs.
Yeah.
By, you know, we'll have 3 or 4 guests, whoever's going to be there, and they'll always tell me, I'm going to do this song, and I'm going to do the Rob Foster version of this song, or the James Taylor version. You know, so many people do covers.
Right.
And everyone's just a little bit different. So it's really interesting when they say, I'm going to do this song, but learn this version of it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to do somebody else's version.
All right.
So, and that's kind of, I take that as a challenge. I like
Sure.
that.
Yeah, that's cool. Was there something in a band that you were in, or an experience that you had that you really learn something profound from, like a band. Like sometimes there was, for an example, I've had people on the show talking about they didn't talk to a bandmate well at all. I mean, they were like, they would rag on them, or they took a, like talking about personal relationships, like they really didn't handle a situation well, like emotionally, and then the band broke up. You know what I mean? Is it, or has there been anything like that in a band experience that you learned something
I've
from?
not run into anything where the band broke up. You got to have a healthy respect for the guys and gals you're playing with. Everybody brings something different to the party, and I've got no right to expect you to do everything my way, nor do you have the right to expect me to do everything your way. So that's the biggest thing I've learned is there's room for all of us on the stage, unless somebody is just so atrociously bad as a musician that we have to collectively say we cannot play with you.
Right.
And on maybe once in my lifetime have we run into that, and it wasn't a pleasant experience.
Yeah. How did you guys handle that as a band?
We kept saying as a band, let's work with him. Let's work with him. He'll get better. He'll get better. He didn't get better. One time we said, like we just all got together and said we can't do this anymore.
So you made a collective band decision, and then did you guys like come to him like intervention group style, or did you have like the leader come to him and kind of?
We all got together with him.
Yeah.
It's not right to send the leader out to deliver the bad news, because when we all sat down together, we could say, from my perspective, here's what I'm not hearing that I need to hear from you, and my perspective is probably different than the keyboard guy's perspective. So we hoped that the fellow we were talking to would learn from that and would go away and either get some more lessons or work on a different style or maybe find another avocation. So it wasn't fun to do, but we didn't feel we could keep performing.
Sure.
And do that. You can't keep covering for the weak link. So
there's kind of a baseline, huh? I mean, you kind of got to be up to something close to the,
You got to listen, and you've got to know. You at least have to be able to tell when I go from a C chord to an F chord, or if you can't follow that.
Yeah, I mean that's kind of bare minimum, huh?
There was one fellow. We didn't play in a band together. We played in a group that met once a week, and he played pedal steel. And this guy could get the most incredible sounding chords I'd ever heard in my life. He was an ex-engineer for TWA, an older fellow. He could get these fantastic chords, but they were always 3 bars behind where they should have been. So, and we worked with this guy for months and months and months trying to stress counting and timing. Never got it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, some people just can't hear that phrasing kind of stuff. They can't hear the 4, 4, 4, 4. Hearing the okay. And then we're there. Verse, but they don't hear that we're coming up to it. And now.
Yeah. So overall, I'd have to say I've really been blessed to play with a lot of great people and great musicians.
Yeah. I found that it's just so funny how. It happens with the talent level is wobbly in a band where you have the one guy who's kind of behind, or the one guy is really like so far out in front of the rest of us that he gets frustrated too, and like you got to find that, find that balance. But I found that that's not usually what the problem is. It's like it's talking out, and like you were just saying, you have no right to tell me exactly, screaming at me all day. I mean, do you find that that's kind of a big problem in bands that happens a lot?
I don't see that. It would be a big problem if it happened in a band I was in. I don't take well to being yelled at, and I don't yell at people.
Right.
So, but I don't see that. Nor do I see in the bands I play in. I don't see excessive drug use or or heavy drinking.
Yeah.
So
Which affects that a lot, doesn't it?
yeah, it does.
Yeah. Yeah, we haven't talked about that as much on the show. It's a really good topic to get into because that's a thing with musicians. You know, I mean,
Well,
you know,
it's ruined a lot of bands. I think.
Yeah.
So and like I say, I'm blessed that everybody I play with will say, okay, you know, we'll drink a beer or two before we start playing, but when we're on, we're there to play.
Right.
And we don't have a problem with it, which is good. So
Yeah, that's what we've. Again, I didn't live through it, but it sounds like that's what the music scene learned from the '60s and '70s. You know, I mean, is that and notice how many Axl Roses we see running around tearing up hotel rooms now. It's like not a thing, right? I mean, like the old all the '70s guys and Johnny Cash going to prison and you just don't don't see that as much anymore. The music scene's kind of learned its lesson, I guess.
we hope.
So we're probably getting close to wrapping up here. Do you have a couple of really interesting gigs you've ever played, or just kind of funny moments in the business?
You know, we always hate, as musicians, we hate to turn down a gig.
Mm-hmm.
And I played.
I'm scared. I'm scared of this story.
I played with a band, and we were hired to play a rodeo in August. And I guess we were so excited to get the job, we didn't pay too much attention to where we were going to be set up. Well, we were playing in the middle of a horse arena in Princeton, Missouri, in August, and it was 110 degrees. By the time I set up, I'd sweated through everything I had on.
Right.
So then you go put on show shirt and jeans, and the sun just would not go away. And the guy that hired us didn't even provide any water. So it was the longest, most painful job I've ever played in my life.
Oh, jeez. Were you guys like in the literal middle of the thing, or
yeah?
So you were on a stage
On
and
a trailer.
On a trailer, and there was like dirt all around you, and there were horses and whatever going. Oh, that's nuts.
Yeah, that's my worst.
Oh, crazy. Yeah, I've never done in like the literal middle of the track. You know, I mean, wouldn't they put you?
No, we were out there in the middle of the arena. It was horrible. It was hot. And then this spring, we played outdoors. I think in April, and we were in a big shelter house, and they had a little tent draped around the band, but it was 35 degrees and raining. After about 5 minutes, you couldn't feel your fingers anymore.
Oh, sure, yeah.
So that's the opposite extreme.
Right.
It's more location, you know. As I've gotten older, that's one of the first questions I ask is, what time am I playing? Where am I playing? Indoors, outdoors.
Yeah.
I try to minimize outdoors. And it's hard on the instruments, hard on me.
Right.
So, yeah, that's just a couple. And no big brawls or fisticuffs or anything like that. So.
Bar owner kicking out half the bar from fighting.
No.
Yeah, it's really hard to play in cold, isn't it?
It is.
I think it's
horrible.
your hands don't do
Don't
anything,
work.
and
Strings don't stay in tune.
right.
The only bad bar incident I had, and I laugh about this, it's probably 30 years ago, a friend of mine called and asked me to play a place in DeSoto. I won't give you the name of it. But I said, what kind of place is this? And he said, Fred, this is the kind of place you could bring your mother to. Liar. Anyway, there was chicken wire in front of the stage, just like the Blues Brothers.
Right.
Yeah. I felt like I was on the Blues Brothers set.
That's funny.
And if they liked the song, they threw beer bottles at the stage. And
If they didn't like the song,
they
they
threw chairs.
They threw chairs.
Anyway, I never left the stage all night long, and we slept away at 1 o'clock in the morning out the back door.
Wow.
That's my bar story.
Yeah. Wow.
Never went back there.
Oh yeah. Like Scott was joking. He was joking that he's like, that's not that scene, you know. He's like, that's not a joke. Somebody has done that. You know, so you can't make that up.
A lot of people have done that, I think.
Right. Yeah. We play both kinds.
We're fortunate we don't have to do that a lot. So.
Yeah, that's cool, man. So last question for you is, again, the show is a little bit about kind of, you know, sharing experiences, but also advice. Do you have any other like kind of advice for younger musicians wanting to get into this life and this?
Play more than one instrument, I think, is especially important. And you don't have to excel at both, but be good enough that you can pick up a dobro or a mandolin or do something different. Just add a little extra value to the band that you're playing with or to the audience that you're playing for. I think that's important. And it's good for you as a musician too. You get burnt out playing the same thing all the time. Play something else. That's probably my strongest advice.
Yeah, you learn a lot, right? Playing two separate instruments.
So
I can't imagine doing like singing lead and then playing drums. That's about as opposite as you get of roles in the band. Anyways,
but you see guys do that and become very good at it. I don't see how they could do it.
Oh yeah.
Smacking a cymbal with one hand and the bass drum with the foot and singing.
Yeah.
I don't know how they do it. So.
Yeah, it's hard for us because we have
So what do you play besides fiddle? Do you play anything else?
Viola, right? Viola. So that's what I did in orchestra, and then in violin, and then sing. I can sing quite, kind of decently, and then I, completely screw around doing you were talking about the theory. I've gotten pretty good at the 1-3-5-7 kind of stuff, and I know kind of all of them pretty quickly, but I'm playing piano
So
okay,
that's like me on mandolin. I know where the two. I can get the two string chords.
My grandpa that plays, he's like, dude, huh?
Yeah, I think my other big advice is, don't have fun. Have fun playing. Entertain yourself. We always tell people this, especially this one group I play with. He starts every show by saying to the audience, "We have two goals. One is to entertain you, and the other is to entertain ourselves. We want to play things that you like to hear. We want to play things that we like to play. So we're looking for that balance. So
sure.
If you're just going out because it's a job, you're missing a lot.
I've talked to a lot of guys about that question. It's a really big one, that because there's so many of us like me who've gone to school and, we've made it our, literal life's work to make money at this, and that's, it's a tough business to make 80 grand a year, playing just country shows, you gotta be pretty good. And so you think that some of those guys that are trying to literally make it just playing gigs, that they're gonna have to take some bands that they don't really want to be in, but they need the money, but they're losing the fun. What do you think about that?
I think that happens. Go to Nashville and you'll see everybody plays for tips in Nashville. So you see a hot guitar player at one bar, and he plays a 1 hour set, and an hour later you see him walking down the street going to another bar where he's going to play the 9 o'clock set. Now you can't tell me that he's doing that just because he has nothing better to do. He's strictly trying to make a living, or find somebody that's going to hire him.
Right.
So
hustling, yeah.
I'm fortunate that I can play and I can have fun. At the same time, I can really enjoy my music. So.
Right. And what have you done for a career, like outside of music?
I was a VP of Finance and Systems at a couple of different companies.
Right.
So numbers and computers have always been what's gone on up here.
Right.
And then after I retired, I just ramped up the music.
That's great. Yeah. Well, that's kind of the key of what we've been talking about. See, you didn't have to.
No.
You know what I mean? Play shows all day. You got a pretty good, nice day job, and then you didn't have to go struggle and satisfy all these club owners and kiss their ass.
But the opposite side of that. I was an officer at a corporation, so I could play a gig on Saturday night, but I didn't advertise that I played a gig on Saturday night. And I didn't tell my buddies at work, "Oh, hey, come on down to Joe's place because I'm playing there tonight." So,
how come?
Because the culture in an office environment, especially if you're at an officer level, but you didn't do things like that. It's okay to go hang out around the country club, go play golf on Saturday. That's good stuff. But don't go play guitar in a bar on Saturday night. You might make a fool of yourself.
Yeah, that's interesting. Yeah. Yeah, that's
Opposite side of a coin.
sure. Yeah. You have a rep to uphold. You have a reputation. Right now, I'm just kidding, but
Yeah.
well, cool, man. Well, again, I want to tell you personally, it's always a pleasure to have you come play. Sit in with us. It's
Likewise, I always
fun.
enjoy it. Hope to do it again soon.
Oh, totally. Yeah, we're usually, we'll definitely call you up because you come and just sit in and we just like go, and it's easy. You know what I mean? You just know what you're doing, and you just
Part of my job, make it easy.
Oh, sure.
Don't
Yeah,
hurt.
yeah. But anyway, so Fred is playing all over town, so come check him out. And Fred Uzzell.
Rob Foster, enjoyed
Yeah.
tonight. Thank you.
Yeah,
Enjoyed
yeah.
playing with you.
Thanks, man. Yeah, you too. So, all right, we're done. Get out of here. See you
All
next
right.
time.